Hello, fellow human. Welcome to day 13 of my 30-day Talk to Camera challenge. The topic for today is to discuss my financial goals. So, what I want to cover today is why I think having financial goals is important, as well as to discuss my own personal short-term financial goals and my long-term financial goals, and hopefully share some of the strategies or thoughts I have regarding both of them. So let's start with why it's important to have financial goals. And the best way that I can explain it is that if you're living in Denver, you want to drive to Chicago, you need to know where Denver is on a map, and you need to know where Chicago is on a map. That way you know which direction to point. It's easy to feel stuck if you don't have financial goals, and maybe a little powerless in your financial control of your life. And having a knowing where you are on the map helps alleviate some of that concern, and it also allows you to game plan for how you want to get from point A to point B. Another really important reason to have financial goals is that when you have a setback, it doesn't feel so bad. Especially if you are somewhat along the way between where you were and where you want to go. In that case, a setback may not put you back where you started. You may still be ahead of where you began. And there's a little bit of a mental trick to know I got ahead before, I can get ahead again, as long as more setbacks don't happen. So, having that plan and making forward progress allows you the privilege of not feeling so bad when setbacks or the unexpected happens. It also allows you to have a sense of flexibility and freedom in your life. For example, I personally had 6 months of living expenses put away in emergency account. This is aside from any of my other investments or retirement accounts or anything like that. And what that allowed me to do is it gave me the flexibility to undertake the Camino that I'm going to walk next month. If I had 1 month of living expenses put away and you separate from a job for one reason or another, then you kind of go into panic mode. You have to find something because you don't want to get in the red. You don't want to end up underwater. If you put yourself in a position that you have financial goals and you're making progress towards them, for every step you've made, you've given yourself more options at critical decision points in your life. And that can allow you to achieve your dreams. So I think understanding your own personal finances and having a clear vision of where you want to be allows you that total flexibility, the ability to strategize, and it gives you a little bit of a mental bump when the unexpected happens and you need to pivot. So I think for me, my short-term financial goals are to rebuild, and of course this is for when I land another role after my Camino. My immediate concern is going to be rebuilding my emergency fund. As I mentioned, I had a year of living expenses put away for the unexpected. It could have been preparing for a job loss, or could have been preparing for a job loss or an unexpected medical situation. It could simply be because you need to replace an appliance, or maybe you have an opportunity to take a really great vacation, like I talked about in the video, I think 3 videos ago, where I mentioned a trip that changed my life. If I hadn't had that much of a financial buffer, I wouldn't have been able to take advantage of it. So first things first, when I get back to work, is replenishing my emergency fund. Hopefully, when I get back to work, I've still got 6 months there, and then I've only got 6 months of ground to gain to get my 1 year of living expenses back in my emergency fund. And for that, my advice to everybody, take it or leave it, is you want that to be liquid. Not, and by that I don't mean cash sitting in your bank account, because most of the time you're going to get a miserable interest rate. But mostly everybody has access to your standard high yield savings account, which can be 4 or 5%. Way better than sitting in a checking account, and much less volatile than parking that money in securities or other equities. Because you hear a lot about people that do a good job of saving a bunch of money for their emergency fund, and they really want to put it to work. They put it in the market, and then the market, you get a downturn, and maybe somebody's forced to sell during that downturn, and you really just damaged yourself by doing so. So my advice, get that emergency fund going. Use a high yield savings account as your vehicle. And I know that for somebody who's living hand to mouth or paycheck to paycheck, like I did for many years of my life when I was younger, the thought of having a year's worth of expenses put away in an emergency fund is out of reach. But you can't eat the whole elephant. You have to just take a bite. So my advice would be, start with that first $500 and then double it, get to $1,000. And once you start seeing some progress, you can continue to snowball that, get to your 1 month, 3 months, 6 months. And for most people, 6 months is more than enough. I personally made the choice to stack away a year's worth of expenses because I was working in the tech industry. And a couple of years ago, when I started seeing massive layoffs across the industry, I had to think about my risk management. And in order for me to quell some of the anxiety that I was feeling, I decided I just needed to put another 6 months away in case, the worst happened and I needed to find another job. Now I'm very happy I did that. But that's my advice to you. Start small and get that ball rolling downhill. The second thing that is really important for me in the short term, and that I would suggest for everybody else, is to attack your debt mercilessly. There's something called the snowball method. I forget the economist's name who created it, but it's just make a list of all your debts, anything you're paying on with the total that you owe and the interest rate. Rank them in order of interest rate and start attacking them. As a matter of fact, now that I'm saying that out loud, I think I might have gotten it wrong. That's the approach that I would recommend, is highest interest rate first. But I'm seeming to remember that there is a theory, maybe it's the snowball theory or maybe it's a different one, that suggests starting with your lowest balance first, and then when you knock that out, apply what your minimum payment was for the debt you just paid off to the next one up. That way you are growing the amount of payments that you make to your next debt in line. So over the course of time, you'll still be paying the same amount every month in total, but you're systematically eliminating the individual debts. If you have a better idea of how to do it, reach out, let me know. I personally don't have any debt other than my mortgage and some student loans. But that is how I attacked it when I had it. So the whole reason I put it here in short term is because there's a lot of unknowns between now and 3 or 6 months from now. So if I do, and I don't think I will, but if I do accumulate any debts, that's how I'm going to attack them. And then just kind of a general theory about my short-term financial goals and what I would suggest for others who want to take better control of theirs in the short term is to, of course, build a budget. You need to know how much money you need to spend, how much you do spend, and then figure out how much you need to spend. Putting down a budget and keeping track of what you spend your money on is the only way that you can cut the fat out and make better decisions. After you have established your budget and perhaps found some areas where you can cut some expenses, it's really about living in surplus. In the same way that if maybe you want to lose a little bit of weight, there's all kinds of great advice out there about how to do it. What it really boils down to, in most cases, is that calories out needs to be higher than calories in. That's it. And your money is the same way. You need to have more income than expenditures. If you don't, you're just going to be going deeper and deeper every month. So just really understanding where your budget is, how much money you're bringing in, how that money is going out, and doing anything you can to widen that delta. It could be that you take on a second job or you do some gig work. It could be that you look for another role that pays you more salary. It could be also that you reduce your expenditures. Those are all ways to do it. And if you can both increase your income and reduce your expenditures, you're really doing well. So that's a little bit about short-term financial goals and planning and strategy. Shifting a little bit to more of a longer-term approach. When I think about mine, well, I think ahead to, oh, what pretty eyes. I think ahead to retirement. And that's a long ways away, and a lot of things could happen between now and then. So I think ideally I would like to be able to retire by 60, 65 at the latest, but of course the sooner the better for me. I would enjoy not having to worry about work. But reaching that goal is going to require some things. For me, it looks like maybe 2 or 3 million to support my family would be adequate. I know that number is huge for a lot of people. But again, can't boil the ocean all at once. Can't eat the elephant all at once. You have to boil one cup at a time. You eat one bite of the elephant at a time. And perhaps you get there. Perhaps you don't. And that number is not set in stone. There's any number of things that could happen between now and then that would change that equation. Who knows what the state of entitlements are going to be in our country by that point in time. Maybe they will be more robust. Maybe they will be eliminated. But I don't have a crystal ball. And so I can't really determine exactly what it's going to be. All I can do is set the course and head in the right direction and be willing to pivot if something changes. Another financial long-term goal is to pay off my house. In my case, I've got a very nice interest rate. The mortgage rate is lower than what my high yield savings account pays. And so I'm not in a rush to pay off the house at all. As a matter of fact, I'm intentionally going to take every last minute I can to pay that because my money can go to work in other places and provide me better value than the value I would receive for paying off my house. I do know that for some people, there is a peace of mind in having ownership of your home free and clear. For me, I'm not concerned about that right now, and maybe something changes between now and 20 years from now or 15 years from now. But for now, I'm holding on to that mortgage rate for dear life, which is a good thing for me, I think. And the biggest thing for me when it comes to my financial long-term goals is a frame of mind. That is to say, I can make the most out of what I have, no matter what that is. And so, long term, financially speaking, for me, it's about living comfortably and being humble, living modestly, because that allows me to live with the level of comfort that I am desiring. I don't need a whole lot to make me happy. And I think over the course of time, I realized that I really need less and less to be happy. So if I can foster that mindset over the rest of my life, it's going to make my financial personal life more fulfilling. That's not to say that you should, be completely austere and do everything you can to avoid spending money or be a skinflint or whatever. But being happy with the simple things and being mindful of the big ticket items or experiences that you do spend your money on, just being a little more thoughtful with it and saying, do I really need that? Do I really want it? Is it really worth it to me? And if the answer is yes, hopefully you've done the other things and you're in a position that you can buy the thing you want to buy, go the place you want to go, donate to the organizations you want to donate to, whatever it is. So that's a little bit about why I think having financial goals and some basic strategies is really important. I talked about some of my short-term ones, some of my long-term ones. Of course, your situation is different than my situation. So some of this may apply to you, some may not. I think generally speaking, it's fairly good advice. It can be overwhelming to look too far into the future and say, it's too far, I can't get there. Little steps, little improvements, and a little bit of compound interest goes a long way. So that's day 13 in the bag. I will see you tomorrow for day 14. Thanks for joining. Ciao.